So we're on number 14 in our discussion starters in 1 Corinthians, and we're in chapter 9, verses 1 through 18. Paul's talking here about his rights as an apostle, and from our perspective, we see Paul an apostle just like Peter. And in many of the debates, he would have been just right up there with Peter. We know he's a contemporary of Jesus as far as age, and was right there when Stephen was stoned. So he was right in the midst of things. But it's come up, at least with the Corinthian church, wondering about Paul. Evidently, there's some feeling that he's getting paid too much, or some feeling that he's not who he says he is. It's obvious that Paul feels like he's being slighted. He says in verse 7, who serves as a soldier at his own expense, who plants a vineyard and does not eat its grapes, who tends a flock and does not drink of the milk. And it's obvious that he's feeling left out. Yeah, if others have the right of support, in verse 12, from you, shouldn't we have it all the more? And that's one of the reasons Paul's probably saying this, is he helped found the Corinthian church. He says, but we don't use this right. On the contrary, we put up with anything rather than hinder the gospel of Jesus Christ. I know this passage has been used time and time again to justify paying pastors. And in our Anabaptist tradition, we had a time when we didn't pay pastors. And sometimes I've often thought that there's a certain freedom that comes from not being paid to be a pastor. Because if you pay a pastor, you have the right, as a parishioner it seems, to treat your pastor as a hireling, as someone that you have hired to do your bidding and to do the work the way you want it. And that's not what we're called to do. In fact, I would say that there isn't any pastor I know who is serving in a congregation that has not clearly had a call from God to be in that role and serve as a pastor. As an older pastor looking and working with younger pastors, in fact, I discourage anyone looking at going into ministry who has not had a clear call from God, because this is not the kind of work that you just move into. It is grueling. It is hard. There are sad and lonely times. And you will not survive those times. If you're listening to this and considering ministry, you will not survive those times any better than Paul would have without a call on your life. What then is my reward? Just this, that in preaching the gospel I may offer it free of charge, and so not to make use of any of my rights in preaching it. Paul wanted to make sure that the gospel of Jesus Christ reached as far as it possibly could and wasn't hindered by anything, even his own needs. So as you are thinking about how you're sharing the gospel with those around you, what is holding you back? Is it takes too much time away from work? Does it take too much effort out of your day? Does it pinch your life to preach the gospel from where you're at? I think it's time that we as Christians begin to think about why we don't invest more of our time and energy into sharing the gospel with others. So many churches today want to put it all on the pastor's desk when it's all of our work. Think about it.